Good morning, modular students. So today we will discuss the supplementary materials found in the Google Classroom. I expect that you have already read the DepEd module as well as those modules posted in your Google Classroom. So let's start. So for today, we will discuss three modules. First is module 1 on the concept of economics. So again, in both the module, DepEd module, as well as in the uh, supplementary materials found in the Google Classroom, uh, stresses that economics happens every day. So, mula pagmulat hanggang sa pagtulog, economic concepts interplay. Ibig sabihin, you have to give decisions, render decisions, select choices, and make choices. And choose whichever would be effective and whichever would be beneficial to you. So, papaano yon? Especially, paggising sa umaga, may choices ka na. Kung anong kakainin, gigising ka pa ba o hindi na. So, this is the choices. So, attend ka ba ng klase or not? Gagawa ka ba ng module? It's up to you. So, this is a concept with respect to the decisions and choices. Ano bang kakainin mo? So, this is economics also. So, every day, you are confronted with those issues. Lalabas ka ba o hindi? So, this is routinary happenings in every human beings. So, trade-offs. You have to balance between the positive and the negative. What is beneficial to you and what is not beneficial. So, you have to juggle down. So, you have to weigh in which would be beneficial to you with respect to your decisions. So, this is how we see it. So, you are confronted with economic concept every day. So let's start with Module 1 as to the definition of concept. And by looking at the example there, or the situations in the performance task 1. So it is a scenario wherein there is a family which has what? So there are the father and the mother. So then there are 5 children. So all in all, they are 7 members of the household. So sila and the 5 children are called what? They are called as household. So economics, by definition, is started from this definition by this context. So all of them has what? Has the needs. Needs, yung pangangailangan, and wants. So, these wants, what? Is always unlimited. But before we go into that, important keywords with the definition is that 3. First, the parent must have what? Must have resources. Or dapat meron siyang income. So, like in the situations, the resources that we are dealing with is amounting to how much? It's 30,000 pesos. So, these children, 5 sila, nag-aaral, college, and elementary. Nasa new normal sila. So, definitely it entails a lot of expenses. Kailangan ng gadgets, so online schooling. So, marami silang pangangailangan, pagkain, allowances, etc. Nagtatrabaho, and yung mga needs pa sila and wants. So, mga load, internet, etc. So, there are a lot of expenses. The question is, kaya ba? Sapat ba? So, it's not sapat. Kasi nga, by nature, in your module 3, by definition there, ang resources or income is always limited. So, when we speak, alam niyo na to, limited, kulang, shortage, so not sapat. So it is sapat. While in contrast with the needs and wants is always unlimited. So that is the 2 words that concur in the definition. The last word is that, ang tanong doon is papaano pagtatamain yung limited at unlimited resources. We over doon sa needs and wants. So the key word is that they must know, especially the concept of management, or in Tagalog, pamamahala. Tamang pamamahala. So with respect to the resources, dapat maayos ang management of resources para tugunan. So given this fact, in the situations, in your example, in your performance task, there are 5 children. 2 are in the college and 3 are in the high school. So there are different needs and varying needs. So this is the definitions that you have to consider. So this is the definition of economics. So pagsasama-samahin lang siya, yung tatlo: resources management, the limited resources, and unlimited resources. So by definition, it is now worded as economics ay tamang pamamahala ng mga resources upang tugunan ang walang hanggang pangangailangan at luho ng bawat miyembro ng isang sambahayan or ng lipunan. So that is the definition of economics, both in the supplementary module as well as in the DepEd modules. So this is the first part. With respect to the developmental questions, you have to emphasize that it I asked you. Pag nagtanong ng bakit, palagi dapat magbibigay ng dahilan. So you have to explain. Explain your reason. So magbibigay ng rason lagi kapag ang tanong ay bakit. Kapag ang tanong naman ay paano, so magbibigay ng paraan or ways and means. So proseso siya. So hindi siya lang basta pareho ng what at how. So magkakaiba siya. So pag ang tanong naman ay ano or what, so just describe. So description lang siya. So typical description, pangit ba siya o maganda ba siya? Masarap ba yan o hindi? So that is how you describe. So by definition, in the developmental questions, the couch of the word is, ang unang tanong is ano ang economics. So as I've already stressed, as I've already defined it, tamang pamamahala ng resources upang tugunan ang walang hanggang pangangailangan at luho ng bawat miyembro ng sambahayan or ng lipunan. So with respect to the national economy is concerned. So pag nasa loob ng tahanan, it's just household. So in English, ang context ng definition niya in theory is that economics is just as what? This is just a household management. So it started from there. So lahat ng yan, magsisimula lang siya sa idea na yan. So lahat ng economic concept, Philippine economy man yan, still started from the grassroots, which is the household management. So that is how the definition, that is how Module 1 is concerned. So with Module 2, dealing with this unlimited resources. So in economics, they are defined this as what? It is defined as scarcity. So in Tagalog, limitado, kulang, at hindi sapat. So basically, kailangan marunong mag-manage ng resources. So, you should have to understood that scarcity, or by definition, in English, this is limited. So, yan yung synonymous term niya in your dictionary. So, limited siya. So, palaging may limitation. So, anong tinutukoy dito? Especially yung resources. So, again, so yan yung resources. It's either pera ba yan, assets ba yan, or etc. So, lahat yan, limitado siya. Kung income man yan, that is always limited. So, with respect to that, since kulang, hindi siya by nature, by the environment itself. So, lahat ng resources in your module 2, basically, magsisimula siya saan? Magsisimula siya, everything came from the environment itself. So, gaya nitong hawak-hawak na to. So, lahat ng ginamit dito ay nagmula sa kalikasan. So, definitely, ito, kahit sabihin mong gumawa ng marami, due to the course of time, kukulang din siya. So, kailangan alam mo kung ano ang dahilan bakit siya nagkukulang. So, in your module, it's already discussed there. In the supplementary module, it is discussed that these limitations or this scarcity, marami siyang dahilan, especially in the environment. So, if you look at the populations, dumadami. So, Philippine setting, for instance, marami ang tao, marami ang populasyon, and yet, di naman nadadagdagan yung resources. So, that is the problem. So, always limited siya. In contrary, doon sa sinasabi ko kanina, while back, needs and wants is always unlimited. So, this is problematic kasi nga, paano mo pagtatamain yung dalawang yan? So, ang pagtatama ng dalawang yan, again, you have to know the concept of management. So, that is the definition again, while back of economics. One of the key words in the definition. So, management, tamang pamamahala sa resources. So, you have to manage that. So, in other words, makakapag-manage ka pala kapag you know how to make trade-offs. So, you know how to found choices or based on your choices, or if you know how to find alternatives. So, or yung mga sa products, o yung instant. So, yun yung mga options dyan. Doon mo lang siya i-manage. So, by definition is that this management concept of the resources, so, it's tied up with the concept of trade-off. So, you weigh in. So, in other words, between the two, which is beneficial. So, you have to decide. So, what is underneath is that decision making. So, dapat tama lagi ang decisions. So, pag nag-decide, as I always stresses, is that huwag magdidesisyon kapag galit. Kasi, definitely, hindi maganda ang result. So, you should have to decide kung alin yung maganda ang aura mo, maganda ang feelings mo, or yung emotions mo. Not during those time na galit. So, that is how trade-off. So, even in other professions, trade-off is essential. In the legal professions, you have to know how to make a 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. So, in other words, kahit medyo complicated siya, kailangan you have to think the win-win solution. So, alin ba yung mas beneficial? Alin ba yung mas makakatulong sa iyo? Especially in this particular, for instance, in your modality, why you choose to be in the modular? So, because you have a limitation as to the internet connectivity. So, this is already the concept of in relation to the scarcity. Kulang ang pera mo, kulang ang pambili mo ng load, kulang ang pakabit mo ng internet. So, hindi kaya ng expenses mo. So, everything is limited. So, with respect to that, you should know how to manage. So, may options ka. So, yan na yung papasok, yung choices mo doon. So, you have given the choice. So, dito ka sa modular modalities kasi yun lang yung feasible sa iyo. Yan yung available sa resources mo, yan yung available sa kapasidad mo. So, that is how the concept of scarcity interplay o alternative. So, maraming pagkain, for instance, kulang sa bigas. Hindi naman palagi na bigas lang. So, sa ano ang gamit? In your science, bigas is the major source of your energy with respect to the carbohydrates. But, in various alternatives, hindi lang siya makukuha sa bigas. So, marami siyang alternatibo. So, you have a lot. So, we have root crops. So, which is the same energy na makukuha in the same nutrients as rice did. O minsan nga, mas mataas pa yung sugar and you are prone to lifestyle diseases. So, in other words, you are deciding what is beneficial because one of the keywords there is management, and in management, you render decision and always decides at the advantage point, not on those other way around or otherwise, which might be sacrificial on your part. So, this is how trade-offs, decisions, and scarcity interplay. So, instant. So, kulang ang pambili. So, in other words, kulang ang pera. So, this is the measure of the government or the solution ng gobyerno dyan is that, diba, in various consumer brands, lahat na siya ngayon ay may sachet. So, this is the reason why lahat na ng bagay, alam ng gobyerno na lahat ay limitado. So, ngayon, since limitado ang access ng tao with respect, lalo pa ngayong pandemya, may nawala ng trabaho. So, mahirap ang buhay. So, that is why you are resorted to this sachet economics or yung mga instant. So, ito'y konsepto sa ekonomiya na kung saan umiiral siya. So, this is important or significant concept that you should be appreciate sa lahat at araw-araw. In most cases, kasi economics is a real context. By definition, although sinasabi that this is a guesswork profession, but in your math, may probability pa rin na mas may mangyayari or magaganap. So, if you do the proper management of resources. So, this is how we see it. So, resources taken from the environment. There are two types. So, we have the renewable and non-renewable resources. So, when we speak of renewable, is that napapalitan. So, it can be replenished any time of the day. But, pag kagaya niyan, since the start is limited, so may hangganan siya. So, you cannot stretch more than what the environment could provide. So, for instance, in your module 3, sa kalikasan, kabundukan. So, hindi lang siya maibabalik within a span of ilang years. So, it takes a century bago ka magkaroon ng isang kabundukan na maibalik mo yung biodiversity there. So, lahat ng animals, lahat ng organisms, lahat ng flora and fauna, maibabalik mo siya 100 years. So, baka namatay na kayo't lahat, hindi pa na ibabalik siya. So, that is the implications, that is the justifications why is it environment and resources is always limited in character. So, that is renewable. Even renewable, pag nawala siya, totally mawawala siya. Non-renewable cannot be renewed. But there are options again. So, there are exceptions to the rule wherein may mga paraan na kung saan pwede na siyang magamit or pwedeng mapalitan. So, for instance, the diamond. So, diamond could be found in the environment, particularly in Africa. So, di ba, nasa kalikasan siya, mineral resources. But nowadays, there are synthetic diamond na kung hindi ka marunong tumingin, ay the same lang. Ang appreciation mo pareho lang siya. But through the product of the technology, as well as with the application of your chemistry in your science, so may mga nagagawa ng produkto, despite na yan, may mga limitations. So, pag nawala siya, so for instance, gaya ng hangin, if mawala siya, may kasabihan nga, kung ang hangin ay pababayaran ni Jesus Christ, sino ang unang mamamatay? So, ang sagot nila, especially mga foreigner, ang sagot, Pilipino daw. So, why is that so? Because according to them, kasi ang Pilipino mahilig sa libre. So, ganun lang ang ibig sabihin nun. So, hindi lahat pinangangalagaan. So, that is why we have resources there. O, for instance, in Middle East countries, puro lang sila disyerto. Why is it? May mga punong kahoy na sila, may mga vegetation na, may mga farm na, may mga plantation na. So what's the reason behind? So di kasi makakapagdiyan mabubuhay sa disyerto. But with the product of the technology nowadays, if you go with the Middle East countries, bakit may mga punong kahoy na sa tabi ng kalsada? Yan ay disyerto. Ba't siya nabubuhay? So, with the use of the technology nowadays, sa ilalim ng mga puno na yan, meron siyang may mga pipes, maliliit na butas. Then, eventually, pag natutuyo na yung lupa sa ibabaw, i-water na lang siya, bubuksan lang siya yung outlet niya. So, ganun ang sikreto doon. In Israel, for instance, ganun din. So, kulang ang kanilang kalupaan. So, maliit lang silang bansa. But then, they will develop na may mga resources sila pagdating sa vegetation, pagdating sa pagkain. So, anong sikreto? So, meron na mga pabrika na nasa factory. So, factory ang format, pero palayan siya o kaya taniman siya ng grapes, for instance. So may kasabihan is that, according to the former Israel Prime Minister, if Israel is like the Philippines, we will conquer the world. So anong ibig sabihin? Ang ibig sabihin is that mayaman tayo sa resources. So hindi lang natin na ma-manage na tama. So kahit saan ka tumingin, ang Pilipinas, pangatlo or pang-apat sa may pinakamaraming ginto. And yet, bakit nananatili tayong mahirap? With respect to the mineral resources, pagdating sa oil, natural gas, mayaman tayo dyan. Pagdating sa mga ginagamit sa eroplano. So why is that so nananatiling mahirap? So that's the problem. So hindi tama yung pag-manage ng resources. So kaya siya lalong nai-stretch to the limit na mawala yung resources. So, idagdag mo pa yung corruption issue. So, why is that? Ganun ang pangyayari. So, definitely, it's within the process. So, hindi kayo pumipili ng tamang leader na iniluluklok upang pangalagaan ang mga resources na yan para sa susunod na generation. So, that is the problem nowadays. So, marami yan. So, you should have to look at this perspective. Maraming populations. Pag dinagdagan mo pa, so you stretch the scarcity. So, tuloy-tuloy ang kawalan ng resources. So that is how with resources is concerned. So definitely, you need to juggle with this. So that's the keywords lang. That's the concept of economics. You should have to appreciate what is there. So if you are really into this, if you want to know everything about what's the numbers, what's the figures behind, is that you should appreciate what is there in the text, what is there written in the newscast or in other current affairs programs. So, in Channel 5, there is one program titled Sa Likod ng Numero. So, this program discusses all the analysis of economic variables with respect dun sa resources. So, 30% ng resources, pinaghahatian ng 70% ng population. While the 70% pinaghahatian ng 70%, while the 70% pinaghahatian ng 70% ng mayayaman. So, hindi siya. So, may disparity as to the resources is concerned. So, hindi siya balance. So, ano mangyayari doon? So, mangyayari, the more na mag-stretch yung marami ang mahirap at the more ang magugutom. So that is why yan yung pangyayari sa Pilipinas nowadays. Mayaman tayo sa resources, mayaman tayo, magagaling ang Pilipino, pero bakit ganun ang pangyayari? So in other countries, in other lahi, for instance, Pilipino ang pinakamagaling with respect to ideas. So mayaman yan. Mayaman siya sa kautakan, and yet nananatiling lugmok sa kahirapan. So that's the problem. So hindi pa rin na nakukuha natin yung totoong growth or yung totoong maturity in terms of politics or in the political aspect. So kaya nailuluklok pa rin, sasabihin nyo, okay lang na maggastos sa dolomite. O pag inanod siya ng waves, pag may storm surge, ay di wala na. O ngayon, since panalig kayo ni Duterte, okay lang. So you justified. Maganda siya. So that it costs how much? 389 million. So if this 389 million ay ginamit para sa mga mahihirap na hindi makakain, those who are in the marginalized, sabi nila, ang assessment nila, siguro they could receive at least 5,000 pesos. O di malaking tulong. So that is the justifications na hindi dapat tinatanggap ng sambayan ng Pilipino. Kaso marami ang nagiging tagapanalig. So this is not good practice if you appreciate those things na hindi naman nakakatulong. So definitely, hindi siya matatakpan yung totoong problema in Manila Bay. So that is the problem nowadays. So that is the nature. So you try to go with what is really the proper way. So hindi siya ma-appreciate. So ngayon, sasabihin niyo 91%. Trust rating, may tiwala pa rin. What the heck is that? So it's not accurate. Kasi nga, ibig sabihin lang nun, tinotolerate nyo yung corruption. Sana yung 15 million 15 billion in PhilHealth. So, this is the problem nowadays. Tinotolerate nyo, okay lang siya, wala siyang magawa. Kasi mga friendship niya. So, this is not good practice. So, we should have to look at this as the perspective. In a wider horizon, in a wider perspective na hindi dapat ganon. And yet, okay lang silang mag-away-away, okay lang na magtanggal ng trabaho, okay magsarado ng kumpanya. So that is not practice kung talagang you have this malasakit and real public service in the Filipino people. So yan lang yung problema natin. Lalot, by nature, lahat siya ay limited. While yung access natin, limitado na nga siya, pero yung pangangailangan is always unlimited. So hindi mo siya pwedeng pagtugmain. Even your strength. Ngayon malakas ka, but then as you grow old, by the age of 40, 50, it's not the same energy that you have unless you should have to practice healthy lifestyle. So you let go those foods that contributed to the so-called lifestyle diseases. So pwede naman yon. So that is not an issue kapag ikaw ay may marunong mangalaga sa katawan, sa sarili, sa kalusugan. Pero pag hindi, you cannot. Even at the age of 30, baka mahina ka na or prone ka na sa sakit. So that is the problem. So yan lang yung ibig sabihin ng limitation as well as yung pagkakaroon ng limited na strength mo bilang isang human being. So yung capacity mo, yung utak mo, okay, ngayon, mabilis ka. So magaling ka. But then later on, at the course of time, medyo hihina din siya kasi as you exhausted yung energy mo at inuubos mo yung lahat ng ika nga niyan endorphins mo. So hina pa rin. So basically, o kaya ngayon kailangan mo ng supplements and other food source na rich in those nutrients na pwedeng mag-enhance ng brain development at saka ng mga memory. So ganun lang 'yon. So, that is how we set. O for instance, kung mahilig kang kumain ng canned goods, so basically, this is prone na makakalimutin kapag dating ng panahon. So, this is by research, this is guided by research in other countries. So, yung magkukulang ka ng as to your memory gap, magkaroon ng dementia, so this is what is crucial. So, yung mga canned goods na yan. So, why is it? Kasi nga, lahat ng resources doon sa dagat, they cannot freely move. Yung mga hilig maggamit ng mga sonar. So, those, siyempre, yung mga pelagic fish. Nandun siya sa malalalim na dagat. Malalalim na part ng dagat. So, definitely, kung nandun yung mga sensors, so, yung brain naman nila affected. And then, kakainin ng tao, so that might be transmitted doon sa mga enzymes na yan na makaka-apekto din sa tao sa pagdating ng panahon. So, this is the scenario. And again, this is according to research, not according to my own interpretation only. So, that is the scarcity. That's the concept of economics. Now, let's move on to the third module, so which is the resources. Again, I already stressed there are two types, so renewable and non-renewable, and then there's an exception to the rule. So with the aid of the technology and with the aid of ideas and other scientific breakthroughs, so with the product of science. So, yan lang yon. So now let's move to the next fourth part is the allocation. So this is very important. So may management ka na. So one of the keywords there, para maging to concretize, what is the concept of allocation? Ito yung solution mo as to the scarcity in general, especially kapag nasa in a larger perspective. So pag malakihan na, kung pamilya na, so kung kagaya nito, in the scenario a while back is that, so 7 households, 7 members of the family. So lahat yan nangangailangan with respect to the foods. So, may lahat sila may needs, especially estudyante lahat. So with the advent of this new normal, so mahirap lahat. It entails a lot of expenses. So dapat you know how to allocate those expenses. So kayo, you are in your household. Nasa loob ng tahanan. You are part of the household. Nasa loob ng bahay. So how could you contribute? Especially paggamit ng electricity, water, etc. So that is how you should have to manage this. So nasa loob ng tahanan. In most cases, in most of the performance tasks, in the module or the supplementary modules in your Google Classroom, it's couch or the context is household management in general. So lahat ng kaganapan sa loob ng tahanan, doon nyo yan makikita. Or doon, yun ang ginamit ko with respect to in writing this module para ma-appreciate nyo yung mga sa loob ng tahanan in a little way. Kasi nga may kasabihan, little things or knowing little things or knowing small things is dangerous. So, di ba? Pag maliit na bagay, minsan sa iba, hindi niya alam yon. So, kaya nga, with respect to the class, I would rather to appreciate those basic lamang. So, those catch in your senses. So, common sense in general. So, lahat ng complex knowledge started from sensical expressions. So, yung mga nakita, narinig, naramdaman, or naisip out of the box. O, diba? Yung mga scientists, they discovered. They don't have a formal study. But yet, why did they develop this very complicated theories? Na pinahihirapan kayo. Itong mga geometry, yung mga trigonometry, so yung mga statistics, yung mga law on relativity. So, this is very complicated discipline. Pero yan lahat. So, for instance, in geometry, paano siya na-discovered? It was discovered only by just observing the Nile River. So, the occurrence of the low tide and high tide, and then they measured it. Di ba? May sun and the moon. So, dun lang siya binase. Then, may computational later on. Engineering, complicated engineering, how they develop that. So, that is out of just observation, out of their eyes, out of their they feel it. Astronomy, papaano yan? So, ganun lang siya. They started from basic. So, sensical in character. So, that is the reason why in the class, I would rather na pag ang tanong ay basic, dapat sagutin lang siya ng basic. So, hindi siya pwedeng mag-complicate. Hindi pwedeng ipagmayabang sa akin na kayo ay marunong or mas matalino pa sa nasa harap sa inyo. Because not in most cases, although I do not have to discount the fact that I cannot monopolize the knowledge. Pero minsan, kung nagmamayabang din lang, better keep it to yourself or show it. Not in this parang makipag-argue ng mali. So, ipipilit ang mali because that's not the way. So, you have to keep it and you have to share what you have in your mind. So, that is I really appreciate. So, then ma-check natin if indeed we have the same wavelength of brain. So, that is how we say it. So, basic yon. Throughout the class, so we could go back with several disciplines. So, minsan mag-English tayo, minsan may science, may mathematics. So, dapat you have to be ready and be careful. So, dun yung malalaman kung totoong magaling kayo sa lahat ng areas na yan. Kasi nga, all those basics lang ang mga tanong ko. So, pag basic na hindi mo matanong, ibig sabihin, superficial lang yung galing mo. So, hindi ka totoong magaling. So, as I've mentioned in the past, 13 years ago, is that I appreciate students who are smart. So, in other words, those who could carry their talents, their skills, kahit sa anong environment, kahit anong situation siya. So, kahit walang libro yan, kahit wala yung gadget, they could respond. So, that is how we set. Kagaya nito, nasa modular kayo, ibang setup ng nasa modular at nasa online platform. So, this is quite difficult. So, pero ang pareho lang yon. So, kasi nga, may incapacity lang kayo or may limitation lang kayo as to the gadget, but the knowledge is behind there. Because ang itinuturo sa klase ko is that I cannot teach you the subject, I can only teach you how to think. So, ang tanong, marunong ka nga sa gadget, and yet, hindi mo naman kayang i-explain yung mga complex knowledge or even simple knowledge. So, definitely, hindi ka pa rin magaling. So, just added points na lang, add-ons lang, yung galing mo sa technology. But then, ang lahat ng talino is very operational dapat. So, in other words, dapat kaya mong i-apply. So, application is mandatory. So, in most cases, especially as you go along with, even sa exam, in your summative exams or even in the situational analysis, lahat ng yan ay in a essay format. In other words, you have to explain, you have to describe. So pag i-explain, dapat limited lang kayo sa 5 sentences. Do not exceed to that. Otherwise, wala na yan. Magbablap ka na lang, mag-ulit-ulit ka na lang ng arguments. So usually, 5 sentence lang is sufficient na. Minsan nga 3 it's good. So, papaano yung pagsulat? So, if for instance, kung ang tanong doon, tinatanong ka, you conclude. So, do you agree? Hindi or ano? So yes or no. So, first sentence, you conclude. So, if you yes, you explain your yes in 1 sentence. So, di meron ka ng 1 sentence. And then, on the second sentence mo or third sentence mo, you give basis. You supplement your conclusion. So, ano yung basihan mo? Pwedeng gamitin dyan senses. Pwede yung mga natutunan mo, yung other discipline. O yung mga nabasa mo. That's good basis. So, that is your second and third sentence. O yung fourth and fifth mo, that's the application. How would you apply? So, use your basis tied up with the circumstances or dun sa situation. So, pagtatagmain mo yung dalawa, yung basis mo and yung situation sa facts or yung facts itself. So, ganun lang yung pagsasagot. So, para hindi kayo maligaw. So, this is the warning to everybody. Some of you answered the supplementary materials in Google Classroom doon mismo sa actual na module. So, hindi naman yon unless you print it out. Pag hindi mo naman siya ipinrinted, hindi ka dapat nagsusulat doon. No need to convert kasi naka-PDF siya. Ang iba, kino-convert into Word o kaya ano nang nangyayari. So, hindi na siya mapupunta sa access ko kasi maiiba na ang format nun. So, hindi ko na siya matichikan. So, you are 400 plus students, hindi ko kayo iisa-isain para hanapin kayo doon kung nasang lupalop kayo sa internet or kung saang files kayo pumasok. So, that is not the good practice. So, instructions pa lang, you should know how to follow. So, ang sasagutan lang, especially kung nag-open naman kayo ng internet at may gadget naman, so, merong direct doon, may separate file for the performance task. Doon kayo mag-type. Doon nyo ilagay lahat ng details, doon nyo ilagay ang sagot nyo. Hindi doon mismo sa module na nakalagay. Kasi yon ay intended ko lamang para sa mga modular student na ida-download niya at ipiprint niya at isasubmit niya sa akin or ipapile niya. Ganun ang setup natin. So, pero kung direkta at nag-access ka naman, at least once a week, nag-internet ka, ay bother naman to answer the Google Classroom, yung activities nyo doon. Anyway, lahat yan ay preliminary assessment lamang just to know kung nasaan ang level nyo at nagkakaintindihan ba tayo. So, I am strict with respect to that. So, this is how you should answer. So, ganun din sa summative exam or yung mga tests is that usually common sense lang, situational siya. So, hindi pwedeng nagmamadali lagi because you have 3 weeks to finish those files, those modules na nasa Google Classroom na open na siya. So, yung may access kayo. So, yan yung gagawin nyo. So, let me caution you. Kung walang internet, again, so you should have to download it, tapos i-print, and then sagutan, and then i-submit nyo or di kaya idikit nyo dun sa notebook or picturean nyo and send it to my messenger. So that is the option. Again, yung module ng DepEd, kinakailangang sagutan nyo yan sa inyong notebook, and then after nyong sagutan, sa October 23, picturean nyo siya, screenshot, and then isubmit sa messenger. It's already there, the instruction is there. Ayaw ko na nang paulit-ulit at napakahirap at ang dami-dami nyo. So, yan yung setup how you should answer those activities and those questions in the module, both in the supplementary materials and the DepEd module. So, let me caution you. In the new normal, wala nang periodical exam. So, wala nang mga ganyan. But, ang alternative, ang ipinalit doon ay yung mga option na pwedeng written works doon. So, kaya expect na mas marami kayong sasagutan, especially kapag nasa modular kayo. Unlike sa online, pwedeng digital format sila. So, kung anong gusto nilang digital way. Unless kaya nyo rin mag-digital, kung magaling kayong mag-vlogging, magaling kayo sa mga other contents. Magaling kayong mag-hosting ng mga contents na yon, but then the approach is related sa subject natin, well, good and fine. Pwede naman yun. Yun ang magiging setup sa exam. So, reflection, mga ganyan, then essay. So, mga ganyan ang sasagutan. Ganyan ang mga exam sa modular students. So, hindi siya kagaya ng mag-exam kayo, pupunta sa exam. May mga quizzes lang ako just to test, just to fill out yung gap para sa mga quizzes and assessments. Pero yung quarterly, wala na siya doon talaga. Wala nang separate. Binago lang siya last Sunday lang ata or last Saturday. So, kaya nga yung module na yan, karamihan dyan sa mga module ninyo ay kumukontra doon sa bagong DepEd order. So, that is why adjustment yan on the part ng teachers as well as on your part. Kasi nga, hindi na siya basta magsasagot-sagot kayo doon ng multiple choice, mangungopia kayo, tapos ang exam. Hindi na siya ganon. So, with the new normal, bago ang setup natin. So, that is how is it in the assessment is concerned. So, kailangan kakaiba na yung exam. So, kung magaling kayo doon sa vlogging, magaling kayong gumawa ng mga mini talk show, so, yun ang mga setup sa exam ngayon. So, kung bahala kayo, it's either group or it's either individual. Pero ganyan ang exam nyo. Pumili kayo doon sa maraming listahan na ipoprovide ko later on. So, bago mag-exam. So, yun yung magiging setup. Kahit saan. All throughout yan. Magsimula sa grade 7 hanggang senior high school, ganon ang setup ng assessment ngayon. So, ganon na ang exam. So, kinakailangan in a form of project na siya lahat. So, ganyan yung setup. So, yan yung module 3. So, be ready. Yung exam, summative, yung quizzes, I think October 19 is due. Mag-open siya sa inyong Google Classroom, sa inyong mga Gmail account. So, nandun na siya. So, by that time, pwede nyo na siyang sagutan. So, again, caution sa lahat. So, be careful. Ang sagot dito, lahat tama. So, kinakailangan piliin ang pinakatama. So, majority doon talaga tama. So, usually, ang choices ay umiikot, ang tanong ay umiikot. So, dapat alam nyo. So, baka nangungopia kayo, hindi siya letters lang. So, you should have to read it. At least dun man lang magbasa kayo. So, the reason why, minsan, pagbabasa, importante. Pagsusulat, importante. Kaya nga, nire-required ko yung notebook na yan para magsulat kayo. Kasi pag nagsusulat, at least nare-retain nyo kahit man lang kaunti. Hindi kagaya ng basta nyo lang nakikinig kayo, tapos. So, this is not the way nowadays. So, you should have to learn the discipline na matuto kayo. So, ganun lamang yan. So, your notebook will be submitted by June 2021, I think first week. So, doon ko malalaman whether I will pass or I failed you. Kasi doon ko makikita kung marunong kayong sumunod sa instructions, marunong kayong mangalaga, at marunong kayong mag-operationalize ng naiintindihan at natututunan nyo sa klase. So, yan. Tapos na natin yung 2 at 3 module, more or less. So, it's available. Basahin nyo siya. So, pag nag-discuss ako sa klase, hindi naman siya all throughout na babasahin ko ang module. Impromptu sa inyo. So, may mga tanong doon, especially yung module 3, resources. O pwede ba siyang maging subject? Nawala na siya, nagkasakit. O, di ba? Naubos lahat. Nagkasakit ng COVID. Yung isang miyembro ng pamilya. So, what will happen to the resources? Naubos lahat ng pera. Natitira niya na lang yung plantation niya, yung palayan niya. O pwede bang ma-subject, pagkakitaan niya yung isanla niya muna, yung tanim lang, na hindi kasama ang lupa. So, pwede siya. So, papaano? Kasi nga, maraming rules, maraming nag-govern sa dyan, na pwedeng ma-subject sa sanla, at pwedeng pagkakitaan yung mga growing crops, na kahit katatanim mo pa lang siya, kailangan mo ng immediate na pera, pwede mo siyang isanla. So, that is the rule. So, yan yung module 3, as far as the resources is concerned. Doon sa allocation, importante doon, so yung kakapusan, you should know how to manage. So, yun lang naman, ikot-ikot siya sa resources. So, paano i-manage siya? Learn how to trade-offs. So, may mga allocation dyan, know how to budget. So, importante yon. Sa loob ng tahanan, this is essential. So, hindi pwedeng ubos-ubos. Sabi nga niyan, may kasabihan, you live within your means. So, kung magkano ang kinikita, yun lang dapat ang ginagasta. Or dapat mas may matitira pa. In other countries, for instance, so, especially sa atin, the needs, kusama na kasi yung mga bills and utilities. So, 50% of the needs of the resources, papunta lahat sa needs. O, 50% papunta sa needs. So, while in other countries, more or less 20% lang yung needs nila. So, kaya mayayaman sila as to the economic growth is concerned or kung talagang demographics ang pag-uusapan. So, this is not as it is. You should have to appreciate budget, investment. So, dapat maraming racket. Especially kayo, dapat maraming skills. Kasi nga, multitasking. The millennials are multitaskers. So, you know how to develop your skills na pwedeng pagkakitaan. At young age, pwede naman yan. You've been recognized kasi may mga bata ang nag-work na siya. So, that's allowed. So, just secure the certification from the DSWD na magtatrabaho ka na, pwede na yon. So, at least may pagkakitaan ka. Hindi yung nakasalampa ka lang, puro ka lang Mobile Legend. So, wala kang matututunan dyan. So, wala kang pagkakakitaan dyan sa dulo. So, unless magagamit mo lang siya if you do with a course na engineering. Kasi yung kamay mo, pagdating nun sa engineering, lalo sa mga AutoCAD, gamay na gamay mo yung kamay mo. So, doon mo lang siya magagamit. But pag hindi naman engineering, I better go with the other way around. So, kung more on solving in computation ka, mathematics, hindi siya ganon. So, kung mag-architecture ka, pwede. Kasi dapat yung gaan ng kamay, importante yan doon. Kapag nagdo-drawing ka na, nagle-layout ka, naggumagawa ka ng mga blueprint at yung mga perspective. So, pwede yan doon. Pero in other courses, hindi na siya pwede. Kasi nga, more on analysis, more on application. So, hindi mo na siya kayang i-apply yung galing mo dyan sa galaw mo sa Mobile Legends. So, pag analytics, pwede. Kasi may mga techniques yan. Pero hindi lahat ng bagay ay pwedeng i-apply siya. So, may mga on the case-to-case basis lang. So, not slave yourselves in that mga online na yan. So, dapat may limitation kayo. Kasi nga, paglaro, laro lang. Dapat pag-aral-aral. So, pag nasa schedule, especially modular, lahat ng modular sa subject ko na hawak ko is that Wednesday lang tayo lahat. So, ratsada tayo niyan. Mula ako umaga hanggang hapon, modular. So, if you have any consultation, just let me know. And inform your BDEL para alam ko kung sino yung a-attend at sino yung estudyante ko. Para hindi naman sayang yung oras na mag-conduct ng klase sa inyo. Kasi hindi naman yan ay mandatory. Hindi siya required, yun lang sa gusto. So gustong malaman at na-appreciate later on, baka maging ekonomista kayo, maging mga businessman, maging mga negosyante kayo. So well and good. Ngayon pa lang, aralin nyo na yung mga foundations na to kasi ito yung dapat natangan nyo, dapat na dala-dala nyo as you go along with. Kasi business ang more or less na pinag-aaralan dito. So in my case, I try to develop entrepreneurial skills. So mahirap lang ngayon kasi nga, walang face-to-face. So, dapat isu-showcase nyo yung entrepreneurial spirits nyo in one activity sana. Kaso wala, mahirap. So, hopefully, pag bumalik na sa normal, because in other regions, aalisin na yung kanilang quarantine protocols, wala nang QQQ sila, so babalik na sila sa face-to-face. So, hopefully, yung Calabarzon din ay sumunod na tayo, hopefully, by January. So, para hindi tayo nagpapakahirap, lalo sa parte namin, napakahirap ng modular na to. Kasi nga, hindi kagaya sa panahon na yon, on the spot, pag nag-exam ka, nandyan na yung result. Ay ngayon, mag-aantay ka pa ng ilang linggo bago namin matapos yan. Kasi nga, sabay-sabay lang yung pag-submit, as well as sabay-sabay din yung pag-correct. Dahil, hindi namin yan magagawa na sabayan kasi ang dami. So, you are 400 plus students. So, hindi ko kayang upuan yan. Hindi yan kagaya nung nasa face-to-face, 300 plus, kaya kong tapusin sa loob ng isang araw. Since marami ang activities dyan, so, hindi siya kagaya. In the first 3 weeks nyo, I think there are 11 or 12 na activities na kailangan yung sagutan. So, para kailangan yung kumpletuhin sa loob ng 3 linggo. So, more or less, kung yan ay 12, dapat may 4 kayo sa isang linggo na nagagawa. So, huwag tapusin sa isang upuan dahil lahat ng bagay na minamadali ay hindi kayo sigurado na tama yan. Especially, I am very critical and I am very strict with respect to your discussions, with your arguments, with your reasons. So, hindi yan basta-basta lang, check ng check. So, binabasa ko yan. So, lalo pa ngayon na nasa digital na yung mga yan kasi nga, isi-send nyo through your messenger. So, then, if I check it, kaya nga individual din yung pagbabato nyo kasi nga, iniiwasan natin magkopya-kopyahan kayo. Kasi pagbalik niya, pag binasa ko sa isang tao, eventually, agad, isi-send back ko na yan, may score na. So, alam nyo yung score nyo doon. And then, kung kaya kung mag-write-ups pa, I will write it down, yung dapat na comments ko doon. So, I will give the comments with respect to your answer. So, that is how we set. So, yun yung dapat yung tandaan. So, we are done with the topics. So, kung may tanong, just let me know if you want the consultation and just let your BDL know. Para i-inform ako para mag-conduct ako ng separate klase doon sa interesado lang. Kasi nga, ang klase na ito sa panahon ngayon ay hindi siya competitive kagaya nung mga nakaraan. So kung sino yung gusto na mas malalim pa ang matutunan, ay doon tayo. I'm very willing to help you. So, ganun lamang and have a nice day. Stay safe and stay home. Good morning.